I got things I gotta talk about, bro. Got question.
Like, that's what's up, man. My man came prepared. Well, usually I hit the intro with a little bit of yo yo yo, what's going on, everybody? This is Streetwise. I'm your host, Matthew McReynolds, and today I actually have a very good friend. I always say that, and no offense to any of my other guests, but when you talk about friendship, it's hard to compete with this brother right here. I have known this man for I think 15 years at this point.
A little over 10 years. Just so from Wheaton. Locker
That-
buddies.
That's right. OG Locker Buddies.
Yeah.
We did just celebrate our 10-year anniversary from graduating
Oh,
Wheaton.
that's right. So it is 15 then.
Yeah, so we're talking '09, dude. So we're coming up. You going to homecoming, by the way?
I've thought about it. I mean, if we can rally a crew, I'd probably go.
So here's the deal. Brooke has a cousin who's getting married in Chicago on the 23rd of September.
Mm.
Homecoming against North Central of all teams is the following Saturday.
Oh my gosh, dude.
So I am in the works now of figuring out how we can extend our trip and, just hang out for the week in Chicago and
Yeah,
get to that homecoming game.
that might need to happen, bro. That's the fact that it's North Central, that's
It
lining up
kind of just
perfectly.
sticks the dagger in there of like, you gotta do it. I've
Yeah,
been trying to get Roman up there the last couple years, father, son, take him up to homecoming.
mm-hmm.
We couldn't do it last year, and I just don't want to lose momentum on the idea. So I feel like if it's gonna happen, we gotta
Yeah.
push it in.
Well, let me know. Let me know what the deal is, and I'll see if I can make it work. We're going to be coming back from Europe close to that time frame. I will be back before. So yeah, if it might be a shorter stint for me, but if we can make it happen, let's do it.
Mm. Yeah, even if it's like you know what? Hold up. You guys travel a lot, dude. You're coming back from Europe in the
Yeah,
middle of September?
yeah, dude, it's really cool, man. Like my wife has just taken my own love for travel to the next level. I mean, when I met her, okay, so it was a blind date. And I had my exit strategy ready. Like I'm not about this. I was doing a friend a favor. Not my thing. Well, first of all, she walks through the door, and I was smitten. And so now
Done.
all of a sudden, I'm now nervous. I'm ready to exit, and now I'm nervous. Like, oh,
Wow.
I gotta make this thing happen here. I gotta sell myself a little bit.
Wow.
So I'm telling her, I'm just bragging on myself, oh yeah, I've traveled the world, been across all these continents. Oh, I've been to Africa for a couple weeks, just really selling myself. And she was so sweet. She's like, oh, no way, you've been to Africa for 2 weeks? Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I lived in Belize for a year. I'm like, oh gosh, okay. I know what company I'm in. So
Wow.
she's an inspiration. And she did that all by herself too. Single woman, traveling Europe, the Caribbean for years.
Dude, I'll
And
say at y'all's wedding, meeting her people, I was impressed. I've never met a group of more well-traveled young people in my life. And
yeah,
not all of that was together. They had each like done their own stuff and then found each other.
right.
And
And
then
found,
she found you.
yeah,
Oh, that's amazing.
yeah, dude. She really is inspirational. And then her ability to take those moments that she's living in and translate them to film or photo, it, it's unmatched. And so I'm stoked for what's to come because this Europe trip is it's a bit of a legacy search for us. We are the Mosbruckers, and
Nice. That's a cool
we
sign.
yeah, it's from our wedding. It was under our that pink neon sign that was under
I
the
remember it. Okay. Yeah.
so And hey, this is something we can talk about today. I don't want to take away from anything you had prepared, but I've been thinking a lot about legacy. I've been thinking a lot about what do I want to pass on to those that come after me? And how am I going to do that? Well, I think the first step for me is just getting in touch with my roots, getting an understanding of the ethos that my family had in the past and trying to harness the good parts about that ethos and then maybe eliminating the not so good parts. And so on my dad's side, it's not so nice. It's a lot of alcoholics, a lot of people who have really struggled, but there's a strong sense of pride for the bloodline, and that mostly comes from Germany. The Mosbrucker name actually means one who lives by a mossy bridge in German.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
Yeah, and so on my dad's side, it's been a lot of trauma, it's been a lot of tragedy, and so I want to go try to redeem some of that stuff. And so part of our journey back to Europe is through ancestry, which is so cool that this can happen. They were able to identify the town that our family comes from, the
No
town.
way.
And so we're actually going to go to that town and we're going to just see what happens, bro. I got no expectations. I've got no fantasy that it could be a total fail or success. I'm just going to go and see who I maybe come in contact with. Maybe for those of faith, see what the Lord may do in a situation like that where I'm going back to my roots to just kind of see where it's from and go from there. And then simultaneously on my mom's side, come from a long line of people who served people. So like my great uncle William, for example, served people in Africa for 30 years. So on that side, I have a really robust legacy and I want to be able to continue that. So I'm trying to take these two sides, look where I came from, marry them together, and take the principles and pass them on. So this trip is kind of cool in that way. It's a little bit different of a trip than I've done in the past. And I have to bring it back home. I've got a wife who fully supports it and is going to hopefully be able to capture it in a unique and creative way.
Wow.
So we're
That
looking
was
forward.
gonna be my first question was if this was a business trip or if this was a vacation or a trip of some other purpose, because I know you guys travel quite a bit for your wife being able to do what she does, being a photographer, videographer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's cool, man. That's amazing.
Probably a little bit of both. We both have dreams of launching new endeavors, which is something I'm highly interested about from you. I think you're an inspiration in that way, just being able to start something and have a mindset that's ready to start something and is okay with failure. You're really an inspiration there.
Appreciate
So
that.
it could be a little bit of both. We're hoping to start maybe a travel business in the future. So we're gonna play with some of those ideas while we're there. But then also, like I just said, enjoyment of learning about our legacy and traveling, meeting new people, seeing new cultures. Can't beat it.
Man, that's so important. I've done the Ancestry and
Mm,
23andMe and
tell me
whatnot, and man, growing up, race is just such a strong part of my identity. It
mm,
was always hard for me to let me say it like this. It was very easy for me to blend into any given group
uh,
and be a part of that group, but I always at the same time stood out. For
mm,
example, I would have these different groups because people naturally will flock to others that they are most like, they most
mhm,
resemble, that talk like them, that act like them, that look like them, that have the same sort of demographic, socioeconomic background. And
mhm,
so for me, you know, could see all these different groups of people and could easily blend in from a very early age, but always stood out in those individual groups. And
mm,
with my white friends, I was the black guy. With my
mm,
black friends, I was the white guy, and was always so curious of how it all came together.
mm,
And it was a really cool experience taking those tests and getting the results to come back So my highest percentage was Irish at
What?
28%. Yeah,
Huh.
which is really cool. And I've always wanted to
You
go
knew
to.
before, or was that new information?
So McReynolds is, I don't know if there was ever any clarity between Irish and Scottish.
Uh-huh.
And I had heard could have gone either way, but never really having some strong clarity. My dad's mom's maiden name is Everhart, which, from
Hmm.
what I knew, was German. Um, Turns out 28% Irish. Next highest percentage, which I'm going to count as a W, is 17% Senegalese.
Ooh, of course that's a W.
That's a W for me. Like that's my second highest. Next, and another W. Like I'm taking as many of these W's that I can get. I think that maybe 14% was Sierra Leone. So
Wow.
so out of my top three, I've got two that are in the African region, which
Good.
was awesome. Because after that, if things brighten up a bit. It was like 13% British. There was like six or seven German, Finland, then we just go
Yeah.
into I do claim my 1% Nigerian.
Well, there we go.
I hold on to that. Probably the biggest disappointment being mixed. I always wanted to claim 50-50. I'm both, right? I'm black and
Right.
I think my numbers came down to like 42% black. So that, I mean, it
Close.
makes it, it's interesting though. My sister, when she did it, was like 36%.
How does that work?
Which is crazy because so everything that we're genetically made up of comes from our parents, but we
Uh-huh.
don't get the exact same thing from each parent each round. That's why we're not all identical to our siblings. Like we get different genes from each
Hmm.
parent and each person. So you get and there's so many different traits that
Yeah.
you can take from the way our brains are wired to the way that we look. Um,
To our emotional disposition.
Capacity, yeah, to handle situations, addiction and things like that that you
Mm.
had mentioned earlier. Like those
Yep.
are all things that are um, preset in our hardwire. But the cool thing about being people is that we can always adapt and change and grow, and we're not stuck. And so, yes, I might be predispositioned or preset to respond this certain way or fit into this certain situation, but that doesn't mean that I'm stuck there. So I
Mm.
think it's cool, and I think it's amazing just hearing you talk about going on that trip. Like you're an inspiration to me because you talk about this stuff and you actually do it,
Mm.
and it opens up my mind to just different opportunities that are available in my life. And that's really what the show Streetwise is all about, just opening up pathways,
Mm.
allowing people to see and hear from other people's experience and other people's lives and mindset, and then, oh, how could I actually apply that to myself?
Wow, dude.
Um, but anyway, man, that bit of a tangent, but it's
Well,
all good.
real quick though, follow-up question. I mean, first of all, you've been to Senegal, so you can say you've
Twice, baby.
been home twice.
Been home.
Tell me a little bit more about that dynamic of being mixed and having to walk that line. We've talked about that in the past, but when you were younger and dealing with those things, which obviously you deal with now as well, but where did you find your identity? Was your identity wrapped up in being part of the group, or was your identity about being different than the group? Where
Mm.
did, where did you find yourself wanting to land, and maybe where do you land now?
Wow, that's such an amazing question. I could answer it in so many different ways. I could because my answer now is going to be different
Mm,
than it was back then. I remember being 16 years old and reading the book The Color of Water, and it's about a guy, the author, who's mixed, his dad was black and his mom was Jewish,
Mm,
and about how all him and his siblings and growing up, definitely due for a reread. But that was the first medium, the first piece of art that I could hold in my hands. And I was like, wow, I resonate with this
mm,
story. And now I have something that I can pull from. And there are a lot of different things in culture that I would attach myself to. But it was definitely, I went back and forth a lot. I think that one of my biggest struggles was not having not feeling like I had a true identity. So I would attach myself to things and absorb as much of that thing as I could. And when
mm,
I felt like I had integrated it into who I was like a sponge, then I could move on and absorb something else. So
mm.
now, as an adult with kids who also a W, I'm going to take it. My wife is mixed. So I have second generation mixed kids.
With
Uh, I have a white dad, black mom. My wife has a black dad, white mom. And so from the grandparent side, they get both. And I'm just so excited about these
so
small
rich,
W's.
so rich.
But there was a lot that I wish I could go back and just talk to my younger self without putting so much pressure on being a certain type of way. I mean, I literally would think, okay, if in order to act and be black, I have to talk
Mm.
like this. I have to listen to this. I mean, I went to hardcore phases of like I only listen to Lil Wayne right now, and that's it. If
Mm.
it was something like Blink 182, that would have been a taboo band for me back then. Like I wouldn't allow myself to it's funny coming to Wheaton the first year and you get on the little Facebook post and you see all you guys, I think there was a Blink 182
Yep,
concert
it was.
that you guys all were going to plan on
Uh-huh.
doing. And I'm on that post and I'm not commenting because I immediately
I wonder
knew,
what
I immediately knew in my mind, it was like, all right, strap up. These boys are built different. I got to be ready. Wheaton, man, I was probably borderline depressed the first 18 months that
Yeah,
I
I
was there. I
would doubt.
did not fit in, did not feel like I was a part of the group, did not um just didn't feel a sense of belonging there at all. It's just crazy how our minds are wired because I really had to make a decision at one point to plug in and not be I actually got this terming from Richard Rohr. Uh,
Nice.
Not be such a deconstructionalist, but actually, you got to make that effort sometimes. We all go through phases where we got to deconstruct everything, but there
Mhm.
has to be a time where you switch it and you focus on, okay, now that I've broken down all the pieces, I can't stay here. I have to build something up so I can
Mhm.
have some sort of a foundation that I can work off of.
You gotta go through
Um,
some construction.
yeah, reconstruction for sure. I mean, I rejected all things white for
Mhm.
years of my life because I thought I had to because it's like, oh, I know that already. I know
Mm.
how to do that. I need to add something else in.
It's
And
just
yeah, and there's a lot that I missed out on, a lot of relationships that fell off. And I look back and I just praise God for the fact that it did all come together in the way that it did. And now it's a superpower. I do take pride in the ability to stand out, but also fit in. It allows me to have conversations from such a wide range of people.
mhm,
And I can, again, just add that to myself and it rewires my brain. In the last 18 months to 2 years of my life, I've seen so much growth, exponential compared to the eight
mhm,
years before that, you know?
mm. It's so funny, dude. I mean, I love what you're saying, and it is a superpower, and I'm so glad you're able to see it that way because you are in a very authentic way, I would say. It's not forced, it's not not real. It's real. You're able to really communicate just to a wide variety. And let's not even say white and black. I mean, you just with your experience now in general, you're able to speak to a wide audience and have influence. And that's significant. That's really significant. I've been very uh maybe I don't know if envious is the right word, but my time working on the South Side, being the only white guy in that context, I longed to have on my ancestry. I was praying for some black. Please, please,
Give me
let there
something.
in my history. There wasn't, unfortunately, but it was that just longing to want to have something to say. Yes, I'm a part of your group in this way, so that there can be influence in a level of relationship. But hindsight, looking back, bro, didn't need any of that. It's all
Yeah,
about relationship. It's all about being true to who you are, letting your spirit come out, and it actually transcends all that we're talking about. Not to diminish what we're talking about; those things add and help. But really, at the end of the day, you'd probably say this as well. Now, the question, the question itself of what was your identity in is actually the wrong question. It's just who are you, and are you living true to who you are in those contexts? And that's what's going to give you the influence and significance in people's lives. But it does help when you have such a wide range of knowledge about culture. I think that kind of expedites the process, if you will.
yeah,
uh,
no doubt. People can tell when you're being authentic. People can tell when you care. And it goes back to how we're wired. But if you understand how most people are wired and you understand how you yourself are wired, now you have the awareness to do something about it. If you can acknowledge that I might have blind spots in these areas,
mhm,
then you start looking for people that can help you
mhm,
navigating in and around your blind spots. And when you care for people just in general, they feel that they will eat it up and they'll accept you at the end of the day no matter what.
mhm.
And
Great point, dude. That was the key for me when I finally had that conversation with my students of, hey, I know I have blind spots, and here's the kicker. I don't even know where to begin with my blind spots. Where are they? Please expose to me my blind spots because
wow.
you help. And that was probably processing out loud. That probably was the most important thing that I ever did or said, and not just said, but lived, and truly wanted to receive that feedback. Hey, where are my
Mm,
blind spots? Help me see those. And in return, if you want it, for me to show you, I would be happy to do that as well. And then it becomes this mutual, just growth relationship. Uh, it
yeah,
was,
you have to make yourself it's so interesting. You more than maybe 99% of the people that I know, very few people understand what it's like to go into a educational institution in the inner city and
mm,
work with kids that have suffered
mm,
or and have lived through 2 or 3 lifetimes worth of stuff
mm,
before before the age of 18.
mm-hmm,
And, we had the experience to interact with, I mean, at Wheaton, it is a bit of a bubble with, everybody lives their own life, but you go straight from that sort of an environment, and then you go right into the inner city. And the only way to truly make an impact is to come in there like this and be
mm-hmm,
so vulnerable and ready to serve. And I think
mm-hmm,
that's where a lot of churches and ministries go wrong is that they don't come like this. I'm ready to serve you with everything that I have. It's, oh, here we are. We're
mm-hmm,
here. We're going to
mm-hmm,
help you. And here's how you need our help. So I wanted to ask, how have you seen in your experience in the inner city, organizations do that right and organizations do that wrong?
mm-hmm. Yeah, thankfully, the organization I was just with the past 7 years, I would say, did it right. I've also been on the side of it being done wrong. the book, by the way, if you ever have a chance, you might have already read it. It's called When Helping Hurts.
When helping hurts. Yep, yep, yep. I almost referenced that a little bit ago. Love it.
Yeah, that was a real transformational book for me when I read that. It helped me start to see all this, what you're alluding to, differently. Um, when it's done well, not to just say the same thing, but you're right. It's this. It's I'm here to learn. I'm here to support if desired. There's, I think, sometimes this notion of, okay, I'm going to come like this, but there's still an expectation that you're going to let me help you. I think that's a wrong mindset. I think it needs to be this, and if you don't want my help, no worries, no problem. It's not about that. It's not about me helping you. What about this process defined that you needed my help in the first place? Maybe I'm the
Wow.
one who needs the help.
Yeah.
Often in class, because I had, for the listeners out there, my daily routine looked like a normal teacher, where you have a lesson plan. They come in at seventh period, same time every day, and you present something to the kids. I had a particular style of teaching. I wasn't textbook heavy or homework heavy or sit here and watch this video. Sometimes those things came into play, but my classroom was very discussion based. We would, like you and I are now, I would prepare a topic and I would present that topic, maybe give a little bit of background to why I'm bringing the topic to the table or some history notes. And then I would kind of go hands off, and I would, maybe one student would raise their hand and give some insight or an opinion. And then I would just ask a question. And then that question would prompt another student to want to say something. And so my job in the classroom was just to facilitate a conversation. I wasn't teaching, because often, dude, I don't know the answers. I'm like bringing these topics to the table, but I don't know everything about
Right.
these topics. And so it became this process of learning for me. I felt like I was in class. Ooh, I'd hear something I like. Ooh, let me dive into that. What do you mean by that? Like, tell me more. And the classroom really just became such a dynamic place to learn. And so I'm not sure if it's answering your question, but I have found that that's when it's done well, at least for me, it's been in that kind of with that kind of a mindset where it's really just all about learning. And in the process, it just you naturally begin to help one another. I've gotten feedback. I mean, I just went to graduation from my last group of seniors last week. The feedback I still receive about, Mr. Moss, you've literally changed my life. And I say that humbly, because when I look at him, like, how did I change your life? You were the one teaching me. I was just asking the questions. But there's something about that, I guess, that when you are just open handed, asking the questions, and genuinely interested in someone's background, their hurts, their hopes, their joys, change comes.
Yeah.
Quite a phenomenon.
And it's so, I mean, it's sad how little people, how do I want to say this? It's so powerful when you are interested rather than trying to always be interesting.
Mm,
And it's sad when you look at not just students in low income areas, but students in the school system in general, how rare it is for there to be somebody who is intentional with them and asking them questions, not just speaking at them, trying to download information. What you were doing is you were trying to pull things up out of them, which in
mm,
and of its essence is helping them to fulfill their potential. And, when I went into I'm curious to hear what your initial motivations were. I
mm,
had a thesis coming out of school, and my mindset was all like I wanted to be. I read this book, Gang Leader for a Day, and it was
mm,
written by a sociologist who was at the University of Chicago, and he, as a part of his dissertation, infiltrated a gang on the south side and got really well connected with the leader of the gang, the head guy. And it came to a point where he was able to make the decisions of the gang
Mm,
for an extended period of time and really live that life. And oh, I loved it, dude. I ate it up. I was like, this is gonna be me. I'm gonna be gang intervention. I'm gonna rally people. We are
mm,
going to we're gonna do some stuff. I didn't necessarily know how, but I my thesis was there was a gap. These kids in these low income communities are missing male role models in
mm,
my age demographic that could come in and be wasn't necessarily old enough to be a parent or a true teacher, but I was old enough to be like a big brother, a big brother or a mentor in a sense to pull them along and to push them forward. And
mhm.
I just it in my mind, I knew that that could make such an impact in these students' lives. So I'm curious, what was your initial motivation that got you involved in working in the inner city in the educational realm?
Yeah, good question. Real quick though, to your point, you're absolutely right, bro. Like just even the presence alone of a mentor is something in your age bracket where it's maybe not a parent or a teacher. It's friend, but it's a friend that keeps you accountable. That's a little older, little wiser, maybe. I think you're spot on with that. My motivation, I mean, very, very authentically, it was I needed a job, and I was coming out of coaching football. I was in between jobs. I was working at a church for years, left that, kind of burnt out with the church world, and was coaching football at my high school, and needed to make more money. And one of the coaches was bored at the organization called Elevate Phoenix, was on the board of Elevate and said, "Hey, there's an opening at this nonprofit. They teach leadership life skills to youth in South Phoenix. Are you interested?" And I like kids. I've always worked with kids, so I said sure. So I needed a job. So not so moral, if you will, but man, did it change quickly. I did not know what I was walking into, and almost thank goodness I didn't, because it might have scared me away. Because my first year was rough. I
Tell me
was not
about it.
trusted. I was scrutinized at the highest level. I mean, it was one of those things where I kids would walk into class and they would not look me in the eye, and they were firm on that. They would not acknowledge me. It would just that was about a year and a half of my life there, and that might have scared me off if I knew it. But what I realized, what the motivation became, was two things. Number one, exactly what you said. It doesn't matter the color of their skin, how old they are. These kids need a loving, consistent, caring adult in their life. The reason why, it wasn't because, maybe partly, that I was white that they didn't trust me, but I think it was more, looking back, they're thinking, I'm just going to be another one of those people that comes into their life. And then as soon as things get hard, I'm going to walk away. And so I thankfully, thank you, Lord, he gave me that clarity that the best thing I can do right now is, regardless of how they treat me, I am going to be the same Mr. Moss every day, consistent, loving, and kind. And so that became my number one motivation. Number two, it became me being a bridge to communities that in our world today need a bridge. I'm coming from a very privileged white bubble growing up, and there's good people in that group, but there's a lot of misconceptions in that group about the other group, and it's and this group has misconceptions about them, but there's also truths in both sides. It's this world. These worlds need to come together with someone who has the capacity, I don't know, to be able to do it and try to bridge a gap. So that kind of became my secondary motivation, was to be a bridge to those communities, and try to create some sort of healing there that's so desperately needed.
That's cool, man. There's just so many similarities in your why and mine. I love the way that you articulate it. And again, that's a motivation for why I want to do this.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
think
Tell me a little bit more then about how you got to Streetwise. You know, what is the moment where you thought, yes, like Streetwise is necessary? And let me tell you, it is necessary. I'm glad you're doing it. What was that moment?
Oh man. So I've been wanting to do a podcast for a really long time, and probably 5 or 6 years. And I say now that, it took me 5 years to make my first episode. The
Mhm.
second episode took about 3, 4 hours, but it took 5 years to make the first episode.
Crazy.
Uh, and it was just, yeah, and it's crazy how our minds are wired, and the podcast in and of itself is not the end goal. Streetwise is, I was really looking for inspiration of what I was going to build the platform around. And me, I have all these different ideas and things that I want to push, and I can acknowledge that 95% of them are trash. But when I hit one, I just feel like it's
Mhm.
good. But until it's perfect and until I can get it figured out, a lot of times I am hesitant to get it going. So you've got that going on. And the last 8 years, we've been running our own business, and we've been business owners. We own Mosquito Joe franchise. We've started Hero Home Services and some other businesses that we're working on now that are about to pop off very soon.
Mhm.
And I've got my experience in the inner city, and that's where, deep down, so many of my passions reside in those communities that are hurting, but
Mhm.
they're not hurting randomly. It is very intentional
Mhm.
hurt that has
Mhm.
taken years
Mhm.
to create, and there needs to be something that's done about it. And so here I am. I've always been a Swiss Army knife in every single organization that I've been in. I've lived hearing the quote, you know, jack of all trades, master of none. And
Mhm.
that was always a chip on my shoulder until a couple years ago, where I heard the full quote. I don't know if you've heard the full quote: jack of all trade, a master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one.
What?
That is the full quote, and it's
How did that
misquoted.
drop off?
Who knows, man? Why is the Bible only 66 books and not all the others? That's episode 2, because we already know we don't have enough time to get into that today. But yeah, dude, I heard that quote and everything changed for me. Everything changed. And it was around that time, dude, I uh I gotta ask you, this is for the moment, tangent question for you, just real quick. If you could resonate with any Disney character, who would you resonate with?
Woo!
Maybe come back to it, unless one just pops off.
I mean, the first one that came to my mind was Simba.
Oh, okay. Love it. All right, so mine is Aladdin. Mine is
Okay.
Aladdin. And, riff raff, street rat, but came up to be a prince. And he identified as that prince the whole time. He just
Heck
needed to
yeah.
be put in the right situation.
Heck yeah.
And I was watching, so I say all that. I'm a big Disney fan, grew up that way. Was watching the movie Oliver and Company with my son. You
Mm.
remember Oliver and Company with the cat?
Haven't seen that one in a while, dude.
Dude, OG classic right there. And the dog, when he meets the dog, Oliver the cat helps the dog steal some sausage. The dog, I can't remember his name, it's gonna kill me, but he convinces Oliver to help him. And he says, I'll split it with you when we get these sausages. We'll work as a team. Oliver helps him. As soon as he gets the sausages, he hands them over to the dog, and the dog dips. And Oliver says, now, wait a minute, half of those are mine. And then the dog goes on and he starts the song, I'm streetwise, I can improvise. I said, who, I'm street smart. I got New York City heart. And dude, I was cooking food. I think I dropped the spatula and turned around because I'm cooking in the kitchen and the movie's playing, and I hear him hit that song, and I was like, that is it. I'm streetwise. And so now I'm
Good
able
information
to
for me. What a story. Dude, don't some of the greatest things come from kids stuff? Children's stories, the greatest
Oh,
inspiration?
I'm gonna have a whole line. It's a thing for me, with my boys now that Judah, my middle, is old enough, he gets to come too. But I'm very intentional about the kids' movies that we go watch because it was so big for me in my development as like the way that I think and process. But they're so deep, man. They're
Yeah.
so deep and there's so much growth. And I'm gonna have a segment on this show about rating kids' movies. You're welcome to
Fun.
that. You could be recurring guest on some of those segments.
Just
But
watched rewatched Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse a couple days ago, preparing for the new movie.
oh, okay. Oh, I can't wait for that one. A lot of life lessons from these kids' movies, man. A big metric on them is how hard do they make me cry.
There you
At
go.
least 3 out of 5, if I go take my I'm tearing up, dude. Sing 2, I bawled 3 times in Sing 2.
I
That
haven't seen
movie that movie touched my soul. That was amazing. Yeah.
Okay.
I can nerd out about these kids' movies all day,
Yeah,
but
we got enough.
when I heard him hit Streetwise, the song with the way he hit the whistle, oh man, that was it.
Mm,
I'm a big fan in Patrick Lencioni. He talks about the
yeah,
ideal team player. It's actually on the board up there
nice.
behind me. But he talks about humble, hungry, and smart. When you hire somebody, you need to make sure they have those three traits. They're
Mm,
humble, they're hungry, and they're smart. Smart is not your IQ, it's your EQ, your emotional intelligence. And
mhm,
so the concept of streetwise, if I can take my actual intelligence, my book smarts, right? I came from nothing, but I've had access to everything.
mm,
Knowing that I can go get my own mentors, I can get information, I can become book smart.
mm,
Nothing is holding me back or anybody else back from getting book smart. Everybody can work on their own emotional intelligence. They have to figure out their level of awareness and start there, help people to help them with their blind spots so they can get a 360 view on how they are in social settings. So that's your
mm,
IQ, you can improve. Your EQ, you can improve. The other thing is who is in your circle and where are you going? Thomas Tremendous Jones in Life's Tremendous talked about in 10 years, you'll be the same person you are today, except for the places you go, the people you meet and hang out with, and the books that you read. So
mm,
if I put myself around the right people, if I go and put myself in the right rooms to gain experience and wisdom, all of that compounds on itself and comes together to make me streetwise.
that's
And if
a
I can be streetwise, I can be dangerous in any room that I'm in, and they will recognize me because I will stand out, because I am aware, because I had to earn through grit and effort. I had to earn my position in that room. So, like I was talking about before, I acknowledged my ability to get there. I could get in the room, but I
mm,
would stand out. And I naturally, anytime I go to a new setting, I'll sit. And the first 3 months that I'm hanging out with the new group, I'm quiet. But then there's a moment where it flips, and it's
mm,
like my brain has downloaded all the information. I've observed all the people. Now I know how this room operates. Now I know which version of myself I can
mm,
put out there to click. And then over time, more of myself surfaces.
mm,
And that is me living out the street life
yeah,
journey. Now I'm at the place now where I have to refine who I am. I've been told dude, social media and just creating content is crazy. That was another motivation for this. Over the last 8 months, through LinkedIn exclusively, I've been able to increase and grow my network and have conversations with high level people in the fields that I am interested in. And it's just been off of creating content on LinkedIn. But I've had some opportunities that I've been processing through job opportunities and career pivots that I've been looking at and considering. And one of
mm,
the main feedback coaching points that I received was you gotta, if you're gonna fit in here, you have to refine. You have to be more. fine tooth. You have to really
Mm,
tone up and sniper. Not that, and somebody might take that as they rejected you because you don't look like them, you don't sound like them, and you don't talk like them. And sure, yeah, that's
mm,
true. But it's just there's a danger in being everything to everybody. And that's the weakness and that's kind of the kryptonite that I suffer with my whole life. And so being able to work backwards on that and fine tune your skills and have a vision and have a direction so you're not just a
mm,
squirrel chasing the next peanut. You're
mhm,
actually being intentional in every effort that you're putting out. That's one of the things that I struggle with the most, and that's kind of the process of, um, I'm still going through that now, but that's streetwise. We're doing a lot of rebranding. There's a lot that we can do with it. In home services, we just launched Streetwise Property Heroes. I'm hoping to be in the franchise consulting space here in the next 6 months. And so we'll have streetwise franchising. Depending on how big we can build this media platform, we might have streetwise media. Um, but there's a lot that we can do with it. So, it's just about putting, the first foot forward and building it and being okay at being really bad. And because at the end of the day, who cares, man? Like,
mm,
David Goggins said this: nobody who talks trash about you is ahead of you.
hmm.
If think about this, if you're running a race, you're not talking trash about the people that are but you're not worried about the people that are behind you. You're only looking at the people that are in front of you. So if somebody's
Oh,
talking trash about the content that I'm making, they're not Gary V is not looking at my podcast and worried about, "Oh, that guy, who does he
yeah,
think he is?" He's like,
right.
"No, get on your game, young buck. Good job."
Yes,
It's the
yeah.
people who are waiting, who are hesitant, that are like, "I would never put out a show like that because, you could tell his mic sucks. You could
Uh,
tell what's the deal with his lighting. Like, show me that person's show. Show me their
that's
show."
another
And
game
I
changer.
promise they probably don't have one. Now, there's we've all got peers, right? Like you put yourself in a circle, and like I've got people that I admire that are doing this thing, and they're better than me, but I know why they're better than me now, but I didn't until I started doing it.
Mm,
Before it was like their stuff, it looks amazing. But now
mhm.
that I've been doing it for a little bit, it's like, oh yeah, their stuff looks amazing because they got this, and this. I'm content with where I'm at, but I'm still hungry. I still want to get better, but I have to do it, and I know it's going to take time.
Yeah, and it exposes of maybe a vision you didn't even know you had when you begin to fail and learn. It just
Uh,
grows exponentially. Dude, have you, which this is probably, we're going to have to, this will be uh, the segue into the next conversation. Have you
I
watched
bet.
the Conor McGregor documentary on Netflix?
I just finished it last night.
McReynolds? This thing had me shook, bro.
Really?
I am walking through life, everything we've talked about, all this stuff leading up to, I don't know what it was. I mean, I've always looked up to athletes that succeed at the highest level. They've just always captured my attention. But maybe it's the nature of MMA, the intensity of it. But there's something about Conor McGregor that's always captured me. And then to watch this documentary and to get behind and out of some of the facade up front,
Outstanding.
outstanding, bro. The wisdom, and we've been talking about mindset a lot. I've been waiting to bring this documentary up because talk about mindset that I want to strive to be like in terms of the grit, the discipline, the self-awareness, the not just being okay failing, pressing into failure, desiring failure to achieve something greater. I mean, again, conversation for the next podcast, man. Has it impacted you the way it has me?
Man, I'll tell you what, yes, it did. It was amazing to see behind the scenes and I think the biggest thing that stood out to me, because I watched it with Brooke,
Mm,
and both of us were just amazed at how he was, how he interacted with his family and with
yeah.
his kids.
Yep.
I loved that. And
Hmm.
to see his growth over time and who he was, why he was built that way, and what he was able to achieve was awesome. And oh, dude, the way that he failed, the way that he would lose, and it just immediately he's sitting there with a his leg is broken in in like major bones are broken in his leg, and he's sitting there just had it put back together, talking to the surgeon that did it, saying, "So when do you think I can get back into the ring again?" With that inflection, just a curiosity and an urgency and a need to get back. Oh,
McReynolds, I'm not
just
saying this just because I'm on your Streetwise podcast right now for the
yeah.
audio listener. I promise you this is authentic. McReynolds, when I was watching Connor in that moment, specifically in the hospital that you're addressing, the person in my life that I most related to that thought, this is the friend that most exemplifies these qualities right now in my personal life is Matt McReynolds.
Wow.
That thought came to my mind when I was watching it.
I appreciate that,
I
man.
probably should have texted you that. But dude, you're doing a great thing here, brother. I'm really excited about what you're doing. The motivation and the life lessons that you're sharing already here, which is this will be episode 3 or 4. Uh, Man, you're on to something. So keep going, keep sharing your streetwise, keep learning, keep listening. Like we talked about, keeping our hands open, always wanting to put others first. Dude, you're doing a great thing, man. I'm really proud to call you my friend.
Dude, I appreciate that, man. And yeah, next time we'll have to definitely dive into what you're working on right now. I'm super excited to. That was the intent, but we just get too. It
Yeah,
just flows too well, man. And you know
not
what? There's nothing wrong with that because
at
this
all.
this was amazing. I appreciate you for taking the time.
Of course.
And man, as always, stay streetwise. Boom.
Let's go, dude. On my ancestry, I was praying for some black. Please, please.